Okay, I've been putting this off long enough. There's no excuse for it. I'm not making any progress on thinking about this, so I may as well just go for the crap video that I can deliver anyway. Um, Obviously, we're talking about clothes and drapery this time around, and I was comparing and contrasting the Bridgman model from there's a George Bridgman book that I have, drawing the draped figure. It's a very good book. But I also have Dynamic Wrinkles and Drapery by Bern Hogarth. And I like Hogarth, as you know if you've been on the channel. And their approaches to the subject are very, very different. Because Bridgman comes at it and he says, these are the types of wrinkles that you have. You have the pipe fold, you have the zigzag fold, spiral fold, diaper fold, the half lock, the what does he call that one? The hanging fold. This one's the inert fold. Oh, that one again. He called that one the drop fold. Okay, so you got the drop fold and then you got the inert fold. The inert fold is what happens when you drop something. That seems like they could have done a better job on the name. But Bridgman details the 7 different types of folds, and he says this is what the folds look like, but doesn't really talk about where they come from. Whereas what Hogarth does is Hogarth talks about it in a very different fashion. And the way Hogarth talks about it is he talks about direct lines of thrust and how forces act on the clothing. And I have a book on this somewhere. I don't know where it is. I've had it for like 20 years. It's a book that was written by a Disney animator, and it was about how to animate chaotic effects like water and smoke and that kind and as I was going over these, as I was looking at Hogarth's approach and Bridgman's approach, what I realized was Hogarth is coming at it from the same place as Disney was, which is it's not about drawing the wrinkles. It's about drawing how the forces act on the object. So let's talk a little bit about that. What we have here with the pipe fold, this is kind of a situation where what you've got is you've got a table and you've got a tablecloth on the table, and the tablecloth is hanging down over the edge, and it's got shape to it at the corner. Now, of course, on the sides, it just kind of hangs down, and that's not a big deal. But it also kind of sort of gets the diaper fold to it, because what you're really looking at with the formation of this tablecloth that's down, you're looking at how the force of gravity is pulling down on the fabric. And this is the closest thing to an insight I have on this. But everything has a certain degree. Fabric is just like it's just a flat plane. Okay, so being just a flat plane, the thing that you're looking at is how the forces act on it cause it to behave certain ways. You have gravity that is pulling it down. You have whatever's underneath of it holding it up. And this card is pretty stiff, okay? And you could have fabric that's about this stiff. You could conceivably outfit 3x5 index card. And you would attach them together with like tape or something. And the areas where it's taped together would be relatively flimsy, and it would bend easily in those places, and it would conform to whatever's underneath of it. But in the other places, it's stiff. It doesn't want to move. And that's the same basic concept. There are strong and weak places in every piece of fabric. Okay, so you have a certain amount of resistance. If you try to bend this like this way, if you tried to bend it straight down across the width of the card, or you tried to bend it across the length of the card, that's not going to work. But if you try to bend it this way, it works easily. And it's the same way with fabric. Fabric does kind of shift and move a little bit differently. I mean, obviously, fabric will move to the sides and you can push it and shove it in all different directions. But just like this piece of card, those forces cause it to act in specific ways. If you push inward, it's not going to go anywhere, but it's going to buckle because it's not going to stay exactly the same. When you push hard enough, it'll buckle, and it will tend to buckle in either direction depending on what's underneath of it. But if you put something under the card, if you put the card against something and you push, it can only buckle in one direction. So what you're thinking about here is you've got a part of the body that is under your fabric, and that part of the body under the fabric is stopping the fabric from bending that way. The fabric can't go that way. When you push against it in this direction, and it's being supported over here, pushing against it in this direction is going to cause it to buckle in that direction. And it's not going to buckle evenly. It's not going to buckle straight across. So your wrinkle across the arm isn't just going to be straight across like that. It's going to be diagonal, okay? It's going to go across the arm at an angle. It's never going to be just like perfectly straight. That's not going to happen. And because of the way that fabric is constructed, because if you've ever actually looked at fabric, you know that fabric consists of a warp and a weft weave, okay? You've got fabric that goes this direction and fabric that goes that direction, and it really goes in both directions from that. But it's going to buckle and shift across the way it's woven. Excuse me, I'm having major problems with my allergies lately. It's that time of year. But it's funny how that happens in spring and autumn. It's like summer's okay, but as you get toward autumn, things are funky. But because of the way the fabric's woven, all of these little threads, they're not perfectly even. They're shifted. So you'll have threads that are straight up and down like this, but then the threads in between are going to be a little bit off in different ways. And where they're farther apart here, that's where the fabric is going to buckle, right there. And it's going to try to go along with wherever the threads are farthest apart on the fabric. It's a little bit different when you're working with something. Here, hold on. Spared you that wonderful sound effect. But it's because of that kind of, it's because of that shift in where the fabric is put together. Which threads are closer together, which threads are farther apart. That's going to dictate where it's more or less flexible. Now, most modern fabrics are constructed in a way that that the threads try to even themselves out over time. And when you wash your clothes, that kind of evens. But with wear and tear, you know, there are thinner and thicker places in the fabric, like the elbow is going to receive a certain amount of wear and tear, which means that right in this area, right around that area by the elbow, you're going to have thinner, more wrinkly fabric, and then the fabric's going to be a little bit stiffer as you go out along the arms. And as you think about this, I'm trying to hit this checklist of stuff, and I'm trying to, I don't know if I'm doing, well, that's par for the course. I never know. Old images because they're not that useful. But if you just think about the forces that are acting on the fabric comes out here, and as it goes farther out beyond the table, it can go out a little bit beyond the table and just kind of hang there. Maybe it comes out beyond the edge of the table here, and it bends over a little. But as you try to go farther out, as it gets longer, it gets pulled down, and you've got the fabric that's supported by the table, and then it goes over this corner, and gravity's trying to pull it straight down. And it's not going to go perfectly straight down because the fabric has some body to it, it has some substance. The thinner and lighter the fabric is, the more it's going to be pulled straight down. But if you have a 3x5 card, you could stick it out a pretty long way and it'll just sit there. Whereas if you have silk, that's just going to immediately flop over and just hang right close along the edge. It's the same thing with any kind of fabric. If you have a thick woven fabric like a wool cardigan, that's going to make bigger, wider wrinkles. Those bigger, wider wrinkles are going to happen because it's just thicker. It can't fold perfectly on itself. It has to kind of buckle and wave and make whatever formations it makes because there's body to the fabric. There's bulk to it. The thicker and heavier the fabric is, the less likely it is to get a sharp bend to it, and it's more likely to have a kind of a thick wrinkle. And you start to see the patterns when you look at it. It's like we were talking about the zigzag pattern, okay? Now on leather, I know bum number 1 was asking about leather. Leather is very thick and it's very stiff, and when you press down on it, it will tend to buckle and form this kind of natural zigzag pattern. Now, when you're doing forces on things, one of the tendencies that people have is they go, oh, it's like a zigzag. But you really don't want it to be symmetrical. You want it to have a certain amount of chaos to it. You want it to look like a thing that has just happened and not a thing that has been constructed, which can be hard to do sometimes. And in particular, you want to think about the parts that are close to you and the parts that are far away. You want to think about how shiny the surface is. One of the mistakes people make with wrinkles is they think, oh, I'll just draw some lines. I'm guilty of just drawing some lines doesn't look right, okay? What you have to do is you have to think in terms of this is an actual change in the shape of that fabric. And you need to think about the plane changes. When a piece of fabric wrinkles, push in on both ends, and it starts to buckle, and that buckle is going across the fabric, you have an area that is away from the light and an area that is toward the light. And it may have a soft, rounded area here where the shading goes, but you want to think about those plane changes and how it interacts with the light. The folds, as they lie on top of one another, are going to have shadows. And it's those bits that make things look, it makes them look better. The main thing you want to think about with clothing is how it lies on the body. And what I have here is some 3D models that I pulled out of Studio Paint's materials, which is, it's a fantastic thing to have. It really is. I'm starting to play around with that and work. And wherever you have fabric on the body, there's a part where it's supported by the body. And there's a part where it's falling away from the body. And gravity tends to pull it down, but the stiffness of the fabric will try to make it go in the same direction. So it's going to come a little bit down, but then it's going to change direction. And up here, it's going to lie close again. But when you get to the wrist, it's going to hang off of the wrist. And you're going to have this kind of situation. Now over here, where the arm is bent, that bent arm is going to create some wrinkles. But the twist of the arm is also going to create wrinkles. what you could kind of sort of see here, but it's not really clear, is that as this arm bends, the upper arm is rotating. And because the upper arm is rotating, you have a force of this arm is bending inward and it's pushing upward. Got sideways force here that is causing a wrinkle to show up here on the sleeve. Because you're pulling upward here, you're pulling this part of the sleeve up underneath here. On the upper arm's sleeve, you're pushing upward, and that's causing the material to buckle, and it's cascading upward and creating this kind of diagonal wrinkle that goes upward. And it's the same kind of thing you get here, but when the arm's just lifting upward and it's not twisting, then you're not going to get that wrinkle coming up in this direction. You won't have that wrinkle here because it's not twisting, it's just a straight bend. So what you're thinking about when you put the wrinkles, you're not drawing where the wrinkles go on the fabric. You're not just putting lines and going, there's a wrinkle here. You're thinking about the forces that are acting on the fabric. Like, for example, here we've got, if you think about the back of this outfit, okay? The back of the outfit, if she's wearing a long, loose, lightweight piece of clothing, that's going to flow straight downward. And it's going to come down and it's going to conceal the shape of the body. It's going to flow directly off of the back of the shoulders here, and it's going to come pretty much straight down. It's not going to go much of anywhere. It'll just stay in that area. On the front, on the other hand, it's going to conform very closely to the shape of the body, except when it has to pull inward. This is one of the things that comic book artists fuck up a lot. They do these form-fitting, like vacuum-formed boobs. That doesn't really happen. It tends to come straight down. And it'll come straight down, and then here, because you've got the arm around it, that hand is going to push inward, and it's going to create some force wrinkles in the outfit, and it's going to push it inward and form it to the body there. You're also going to get kind of, because this is pushing inward, the forces acting here are going to cause the center area of this little gown to conform more to the leg there. So you're going to get kind of this shape where she's pulling the dress in closer to her here, but it's mostly just falling straight down. Now, if you back up a little bit and you go, okay, let's say we're dealing with a stiffer material, wearing, say, a suit jacket, something like that. If she's wearing a suit jacket, then that's going to come down and it's going to conform more or less, but you've still got gravity. So it's going to come in somewhat over this. It's going to contact the back, and if it comes down to around here, like most suit jackets do, you're going to get a fold here, okay? You're going to get a fold right here where the jacket is being pushed upward. So you want to think about how exactly that's going to fit, and with the suit jacket being the way it is, here you've got the suit jacket conforming to the body, so it is going to conform somewhat to the shape of the breast. It's not going to be vacuum formed because it's got to come down, and there's a certain tightness here. Because she's leaning back, okay, this jacket is going to have some stress wrinkles that come upward here. And by the same token, here she's leaning down, she's pushing into this, and she's going to get a bit of a crease here that shows up. And over here, she's going to have a slightly similar crease, but it's going to poke out the other way. That's with the way that twisting works. This is pulling. This is moving. Got a stress wrinkle sort of thing going here. She's got kind of a wrinkle going. I suck at this, but I'm telling you how the stuff works. It's possible. Same way with trousers. They're not going to conform perfectly to, you can see right here, you got this little divot. This thing. And I've exaggerated it there for effect. There's a tendon under the gluteal muscles that holds that up and makes that little cut right at the top of the thigh. As you get older, this tendon necessarily loosens. So that's one of those things that over time, you reach a certain age and you don't have that anymore. It just gets smooth. It just comes straight down. Whereas on a younger person, it's actually going to, and younger and more athletic they are, the more it's going to cut. Also with men, it's more but for all of this, what you're looking at is what forces are acting. This hand is always going to put in a little on whatever you decide to put on her, whether it's a skirt or a pair of trousers, have you. That hand is always going to push in. There's always going to be some effect that it has on fabric of the clothing that you're wearing. Similarly, over here, you can see that because she's got her arm stretched out, there's going to be over here, there will be some little, but these aren't just lines, these are actually changes in the contour of the fabric. Fabric is here, and these lines represent the actual form of the fabric to wrap around. So when you're looking at something in perspective, I'm doing it. I always do it. I even do. But the key with putting clothes on anybody, or just with drawing cloth in general, is to understand that what you're actually drawing is the forces that are acting on this particular person's clothing. You're not just drawing lines, drawing the actual shapes of what's going on. Do a good job of this, which I never do. It comes across, got some clothing. Clothing has thickness. Like if you got a collar right here, that collar isn't a razor edge up at the top. It rounds over, and the fabric has all three sections. There is a thickness fabric, and that thickness should be reflected when you draw that that collar, and you should see that in the way that things are done. It have kind of shadow underneath. Terrible. I don't even know why I started doing this. Those are the thoughts that I have so far. I'll go into some more detail on this at some later point in time. Think about how shiny the material that you're drawing is. Think about think about how thick it is, think about how stiff it is, and remember that you're drawing the forces that are acting on it. Where think about where those forces are pushing at actual. If you're not sure what it does to fabric, hey, grab some fabric and experiment. Use reference. If you don't have a photographic reference for exactly what you're trying to do, get yourself some clothing and get yourself a mirror and look in it and wear the clothing and see what happens. Try different colors by looking at it in different ways. Set up your lighting. Get yourself I got a desk lamp up here that has a little spring clip on it. Get something like that and move it around. Put it in so you've got light coming areas. Put shades on it to give it more of it. Right, just. I was feeling good about myself this week, and now I'm just in here being a fucking idiot again. There is one like important announcement and thing that I need to, which is I'm moving these streams from YouTube to Discord. So if you want to attend the stream live, that's going to be on Discord and not on YouTube, because I'm really unhappy with the latency on YouTube stream. And I'm going to try Discord and see if that's got better. See if that's got a better situation. I think it might. So I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to do this for a while, and I'm going to see how it works. I am still going to be recording I'll be recording the stream and uploading it to YouTube after the fact. But if you want to participate in the stream, if you want to be part of it, if you want to directly interact, then you're going to have to come over to this is my bribe to get people to come over there. Hey, you want to actually be part of the stream? Come to the Discord server. We're not doing this on YouTube. YouTube isn't really designed for real-time interaction. I mean, they do kind of sort of have some, but it's not very good. So yeah, I don't like the delays on the chat stream, and I think it may be better on Discord. So I'm going to move the streams over to Discord, and that'll start. God, it's Friday. That'll be starting tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Pacific. I'm not going to call them the Saturday night stream anymore. I mean, it's literally for 23 of the time zones of the world. It's Sunday morning. I don't know. It's going to be like the Sunday morning sketch or something. Weekend sketch. The sketch weekly. WEAK. Sketch weekly stream. I like that. I think I'm going to keep it. But yeah, that's what I got. I apologize. It should have been better, but it. Okay, bye.